we are back to Ground Zero, and we are so excited today to share with you about our initiative, Mr. Mole's Mindful Magic. Essentially, we are building a generation of emotionally and environmentally conscious youth. My name is Maria, and I manage operations and partnerships.
And I'm Chloe. I work on curriculum development here at Back to Ground Zero.
Before we start, we'd like everyone to recall your experience during Circuit Breaker. What did you do to protect your physical health? I'm sure many of us would be able to think of a few things we did, including exercising, eating well, and sleeping well. Let's try a different question. Over the past 2 years, what were 3 actions you have taken in order to protect your emotional health? Many of us might find it harder to state what we do to boost our immunity against mental health issues. This brings us to our main point. Just like how we've been taught ways to boost our physical immunity since young, we think that socio-emotional learning deserves its dedicated place in every Singaporean's childhood. However, there have been challenges in broadening access to SEL in Singapore. Based on a 2019 study, nearly half of educators surveyed recognized the high importance of emotional competence, yet less than a third strongly agreed that it was being implemented at local preschools. For lower-income households, SEL plays an especially critical role in helping them manage stressful situations. On this, our group is working on an innovative solution.
Our solution in response to the lack of explicit socio-emotional teaching and learning is to formulate a program that we call Mr. Mole's Mindful Magic. A series of mindfulness enrichment sessions, our program uses environmental concepts as a gateway to helping youths develop socio-emotional skills. Explicit SEL, therefore, takes place alongside any other learning subject. Now, there are 4 key facets of our curriculum that make us unique. Firstly, we are aligned with the national emphasis on socio-emotional learning. Our lessons thus augment the general curriculum, focusing on high-needs students. Secondly, our lessons combine SEL with environmental literacy, which I will explain in the next slide. And thirdly, our lessons are delivered in intimate learning environments where students benefit from small facilitator-student ratios. Finally, by working with partners plugged into our target communities, we improve accessibility to our lessons because we can go where we are needed. Now, let me underscore one of the ways in which we stand out. Back to Ground Zero has extensive experience in the eco-literacy space, and we have used this knowledge to harmonize eco-literacy with socio-emotional literacy. We believe that as a child builds a strong relationship with themselves and with others, a natural extension of SEL skills is a strong relationship with the environment too. Back to Ground Zero is thus the only market player that provides a unique curriculum harmonizing SEL and eco-literacy. We are hence sowing the seeds for intersectional growth, improving academic outcomes, emotional resilience, and environmental consciousness. In the past 6 months, we've worked on formulating the founding principles and frameworks that form the basis of our curriculum. And in Pillar 1, we are focusing on self-awareness and self-regulation. This involves 6 lessons, all of which have been planned.
We have also piloted our lessons with the Public Libraries of Singapore and community groups who work with families in rental housing estates. We've received heartwarming responses with a Net Promoter Score of 100, which means that all of our partners are highly likely to recommend us to their peers. And the buzz around the initial trial sessions that we had has led to new partnerships this year, and we're really excited to work with the likes of Central Singapore CDC and New Hope Community Services. Of course, impact measurement is embedded in all of our sessions. To evaluate effectiveness, we use a variety of metrics, such as NPS and surveys for adults, pre- and post-questions ingrained in students' activity sheets, as well as detailed facilitator observation notes.
In 18 months' time, we will have a full package of 6 lessons completed and tested. We would also have established partnerships with 2 to 3 community-based anchor partners and 1 school-based partners. We will also be differentiating our lessons for different age groups and providing outreach workshops focusing on cultivating socio-emotional competencies. That's not the end, however. We've invested in the space for the long term, and beyond 2023, we intend to broaden access to our SEL curriculum by working with schools. Curriculum-wise, we will also be looking at tripling the number of lessons we can provide through 2 more curriculum pillars.
To scale up, our budget covers 25K over the next 17 months, the bulk of which lies in curriculum development and training. So in sum, we hope we've provided a vision for how we can and we should work towards a dedicated SEL curriculum for all Singaporean youth. We are building a generation of emotionally and environmentally conscious youth, and we hope you'll join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our Q&A, Maria will be taking all questions related to the product management side, and I'll be taking all curriculum-related questions.
Thank you so much for that sharing. It's great to see all the different plans that you have in place. I was also curious on one aspect. There was one particular slide that talked about how the number of faciles or people required to support that small size, intimate support. It's 1:3 or 4. And I also wonder, in the plans to scale up, how would that be managed?
Yeah, so part of our resources includes recruiting trained session facilitators, which we'll also use some time to train them to our own curriculum. So that's actually the key part of manpower development in our budget, where we want to be able to ensure the ratio stays small so that the learning will be highly effective. So recruiting session facilitators is definitely one of the biggest part of our budgets.
I have a question around your target segment. You mentioned these are students, right? What about those who are in kindergarten, those who are under 5 years old? Because there are numerous studies that show that, for the first 5 years of a person's life is when their personality and a lot of their mindset is developed and pretty much fixed.
Yeah, okay, so the question was about the younger preschool age of children. We have actually worked with some of these children within, for example, the public library sessions in which the children were 5 to 7 years old. The reason for us moving towards the primary school side is also to engage with school-based partnerships, for example, after-school care, in which the reach and access to high-needs students is actually quite extensive. And we also have extensive experience in the primary school space. So our understanding is to first access our target groups through school-based and community-based partners before eventually differentiating further, perhaps downwards to the preschool age as well. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your presentation. I like how you actually incorporate eco-literacy with SEL. Just one question. You mentioned that you've been working with MOE on the CCE curriculum, right? What's the difference or the unique selling point between your curriculum and MOE's CCE program or SEL program?
Okay, so I'll take this question. So MOE's CCE framework has recently been revamped in 2021. So a few members of the team are actually teachers, so we do use this framework in schools as well. In the MOE curriculum framework, you will see that there are 5 socio-emotional competencies. These socio-emotional competencies are the same skills that we intend to equip our students with. However, what differentiates us from the MOE curriculum would be we provide explicit teaching and learning in a very focused environment for high-needs students. So in a school setting, these students will be part of a general curriculum, or they might benefit from after-school care in which they have access to different domains of education. However, we perceive SEL to be our unique space in which we work with them one-on-one, 1-3, or in a small group setting in order to deliver key concepts, such as, for example, even regulating your emotions, interacting with others, so on and so forth. And by doing that, we actually believe that we are augmenting, or rather developing and targeting these high-needs students beyond what the school can provide them with the limited resources that a teacher with 20, 40 students can do, yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious on one part, in terms of integration into, let's say, the schools in time to come, because these are workshops that are for the youths. To what extent, let's say, because it's about how educators who has also a lot of interaction with with them in class, to what extent will they also be empowered with the ability to reinforce this on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so I'll take this, and then Maria, if any other points, can add on as well. So in the past few pilot sessions we have had, we've actually interacted with a couple of community partners, for example, Sixth Sense, who are adults that work specifically with the children in the Kebun Baru rental flats. So this is one example of how, as we work with these partners, we are actually able to interact with the significant adults in these children's lives who are present at the session as well. So as we deliver our curriculum, these significant adults are alongside us and learning from us as even as we carry out the sessions. Thereafter, they will continue to apply these skills on a weekly or day-to-day basis as they interact with the children. So the same applies in a school setting. If we work with a school-based partner in, for example, an after-school care setting, the significant adults will be there, for example, student care officers, to learn from us and then thereafter keep reinforcing these concepts. And if you are familiar with school-based student care centers, they're also in schools. So for example, our ideal world is where in schools we are interacting with significant adults, with the teachers, with the parents. Whatever we teach in that 1 hour of face-to-face time, thereafter gets repeated and reinforced even when we are not there. So that's how we intend to manage and scale our impact as well.
Yeah, just to add on, the way we see ourselves is that we are delivering both a product and a service. The product being the curriculum and the resources around that, and the service being us implementing that curriculum. So aside from us implementing some of our sessions and facilitating these sessions ourselves, we also intend to open source some of these resources and the way we think about SEL so that these can be readily available to educators all in Singapore, whether you are working in a community group or in the education space directly.
All right, thank you very much, team. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.